Let's see, today is 11/3.
Yeah.
11/3/2/1.
Yeah, you're being recorded now.
Yeah, okay.
It's all for posterity, Steve. They live on in infamy. Yeah, since we've started recording them, they're all available on our Vimeo channel, which is really kind of cool. Because you can go back and look
That's nice.
at the full recorded presentations, as opposed to just the PowerPoint if you happen to miss it.
Good morning, Brent.
With the
Brent?
power. Hi, Brent.
He said, I am sure.
Brent muted, so we couldn't hear him say hi.
That's okay. Yeah, now he went incognito.
Yeah.
Jennifer? ADOT?
Morning, Steve.
Good to have you join us today.
Actually, it's paper from here.
I don't know, it's a virgin tape tablet.
I don't want to mess it up. Just one from the inside somewhere.
I just want to find one that doesn't have any impressions on it yet. Oh, no.
I know Rosa Livas.
I couldn't find the mute button. I'll figure it out when we're done with using all these computer, whatever they're called. Ugh.
Whatever it's called. I don't know Adam. I don't know Brandon Roy. I know Dick Keanu. Hi, Dick.
Good morning. Couldn't find the unmute button.
Join the club.
Well, we'll make sure we move it next week, so you have to look for it again. It's like a scavenger hunt every week.
Here's Limke. Hi, Limke.
Good morning.
Yeah, there you go. Not shy to show your face. That's what I like.
Ben, Rob.
My skinny face is here. Hi, Al. Hi, Bruce.
Hi, Rob.
Hi, Brent. Hi, Justin.
Hello,
Well,
Mr. Lemke.
One
This
of
is
these,
Justin. So I'm sorry, my voice is a little, off
What-
today.
one of these days, I might try to come to the office.
Well, we are
should.
always here and we are always happy to have you.
That's right. That was good.
How you doing, Steve?
Doing pretty well. Yourself?
Not too bad. Are you at home or are you at the office?
I'm at home today. Our last meeting, I went actually to ACEC's office. It was pretty good. Have to get back there. Have to get more people to get there.
I was still happy about the roads and streets. It was good to see everybody. That was like a party, coming out to see everybody. It was like a vacation. It was like I hadn't seen everybody for years.
Yeah. Kind of like a
Reunion.
Yeah.
10-year high school reunion.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, that's a better analogy.
Hey, Sliegel.
I am here.
Hey, Kurt.
Hey, guys.
Looking as young as usual.
Oh, yeah, right. Thank you.
I want something from you. How can you tell?
The old Energizer Bunny Slagle.
Yep. Here we go.
Oh, hey, it's 8:02. I know we'll probably want to wait a couple more minutes. I see Jeremy and Chris are on, so we're
Morning,
we're
guys.
safe.
Can you guys hear us okay?
Good morning.
Yes,
All right.
yes, can see and hear you both.
All right.
I'll let Justin decide when we get started. I know we probably need a few more. We probably want to wait. Karen.
Hello.
Scott.
Good morning.
No, come on. Put the U of A background back in there.
That was for my U of A alumni group there, but I could do it there for you, Steve. It's good.
In fact, our speakers are down in Tucson. Jeremy, were you born in Tucson?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Tucson and graduated from the U of A actually. So yeah.
All right. I was also went to Catalina High School when it was a high school.
All right.
What high school did you go to?
I went to Saguaro, graduated in '99.
All right.
So it looks like we're missing about 11 of the folks that have registered. So it's entirely up to you, Steve. We do have those that are here and on time and ready to go.
Okay. Yep. We see. It's good to see Boshin on. We can get, when it's time, we can get his ADOT announcements. I don't see anybody from, oh, there's Ammon. FHWA, are you the only FHWA person?
No, so Anthony Sarhan's also trying to get in.
Okay, who will give a report from FHWA? Would that be Anthony?
Anthony, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. In that case, yeah, I still don't see him.
Yeah, let me text him. I think he's having a hard time getting into the meeting.
Okay.
There's a 816.
Yeah, we do have a phone number, which very well could be.
It's a weird phone number though.
That was a good one, Boshin. I see that. Oh, Steve, you're gonna have to make a caller or something.
I know.
Although it says Stanley on his shirt. Look at that.
It does say Stanley.
I know it.
It is very unbecoming to see Mr. Jimenez in no tie. So I'm just kind of in shock this morning.
I know. Is that like a stick-on Stanley thing? You can just kind of pull that off and
Iron on.
Come on. Yeah. I should put it on my forehead. Well, we will go ahead and get started then. And I have to kind of scroll through to see who's on. I don't have everybody on at one time. Oh, okay, we've had a bunch join in just the last 2 minutes. Good to see you. We'll go ahead and start then. This is
I'll feel it there.
November 3rd. the ADOT ACEC of Arizona liaison meeting. Good to have everybody here. I'm Steve Jimenez with Stanley Consultants. Usually in this format, we don't go around and introduce ourselves, but if you will indulge me, just turn your camera on for about 20 seconds and let people see you and wave to you and let them scroll through and get a good look at whoever's brave enough. Yes, it was noted that I'm wearing a t-shirt, but I'm brave enough to show myself. It does say Stanley on it. Let me ask, is there any first timers at this meeting other than our speakers? I don't think Chris has been on before, Jeremy, but we'll introduce them. There's Riston. All right. Love the facial hair still. Any first timers? Go ahead and say, yeah, this is my first time.
Yeah, Greg Linger with HDR, first time sitting in.
Oh man.
What?
A guy as old as you has never been to one of these.
Welcome.
Oh yeah, that's encouraging other people to announce the first time. Greg, good to see you.
Hi, Steve. It's Adam Brown with CEI. It's not first time, but it's been about 7 years since I've been to an ACEC event.
Okay. Yeah, welcome. Yeah, I do remember you from the past. All right. Yeah, we'll go ahead and get started. Hope everybody had a safe Halloween. Yeah, it did remind me of why the zombie became a mortician. Does anybody know why the zombie became a mortician? He just wanted to put food on the table.
Oh, God.
Wow.
That's pretty bad. That's
Well, it's Halloween. Okay.
I like it. It's a good one.
Can't help but laugh.
We're grown.
That's what I
I can understand the groaning. Let's see, any announcements from FHWA? Did Anthony get on?
We're not seeing him yet, Steve.
No,
Okay.
no. So I'm chatting with him on the text. He's basically getting a meeting hasn't started yet message on both the sign in through the web and on the phone. So I don't know if you've run into that before. If you know how he can get around it.
Yeah. If you'll email Amerigo real quick, I can get him in.
Okay. Email Amerigo.
Yeah, he'll know.
Okay. All right. I'll text him and maybe he can do his update afterwards or something. I don't want to hold up your presenters.
Yeah, good. Yeah, we'll circle back and catch up with him. Thanks, Evan. Steve, any ADOT announcements?
We have not had any staff changes in a while, which is good. We still struggle with hiring, Steve, as I know all of you guys do. In terms of what everybody's probably thinking about happening in Washington, it looks like it's close, but it looked like it was close last week too. So we'll see what happens. I did read some encouraging news, at least about prescription stuff that Kelly and Cinema have been working on the social side that may be helping to make this happen. But we're optimistic that they'll get a package soon. So I think that's all the updates we have, Steve.
All right, thank you. Good to see you. You did miss the meeting where I wore the Entranco shirt and did have a story about you, but since you weren't there, I didn't tell it, which was probably good anyway.
Well, now I want to hear it. All right, some
I
other
forgot. It's been a couple months. I forgot already.
All right.
Hey, Steve, I do have a quick update for the standards committee.
Okay.
As probably a lot of people are aware, or may not be aware, I sit as a representative of ACEC on the standards committee, and they have requested the consultants because we have a wider breadth than ADOT does as far as fiber reinforced concrete. I know that ADOT does have some requirements in their specs, and they use it in certain situations. They do not use it as widely as other municipalities within our state. So they've requested that the consultants provide some additional information for other clients that may use this method of rehabilitation for concrete and bridges and mostly bridges, but other kind of, situations. So if anybody has anything or has some specs for us, can you send those to me via email or send them into ACEC and they'll get them to us? So I want to funnel it back up through the standards committee for ADOT. Thanks.
Sure. Steve, speaking of standards, there's an effort by communication companies around the state to prevail on the MAG standards committee to put a micro trench standard on. A lot of the agencies are concerned about that due to the need to mill and replace the asphalt and refurbish the pavement. And so if you're interested in that, you might want to contact the MAG standards committee.
All right. Anybody else? Open mic. Okay, we'll get on with introducing our guest speakers. Jeremy Moore started with, if you didn't hear previously, he was born in Tucson, raised in Tucson. He started with ADOT in 2004 as an intern while he was at the U of A. And he graduated in 2005 with a civil engineering degree and started with ADOT in the EIT program. He's now an assistant district engineer in the South Central District. Chris Kane is the other speaker today. He came to Arizona in 2003 with Ed Kramer and Sons, and remember them working on some interchanges in the Phoenix area. And in 2006, he joined Ames in construction, managing projects in California, New Mexico, and Arizona. He was involved with the South Mountain Freeway and also down in Tucson on the I-19 Ajo TI. And take this moment to plug that. That interchange was a recent winner of the ACEC Arizona Engineering Excellence Grand Award. There's a picture of it. Ames was the prime contractor on phase 1 of that project. Chris was the manager of that. Jeremy Moore was involved in some aspect, I'm sure, being in the South Central District, and Stanley Consultants designed that. So that was presented at the awards ceremony just 2.5 weeks ago at the Phoenix Botanical Gardens, a very nice program where they presented legacy awards and engineering excellence awards. So those of you that are on the call that won some awards, congratulations to you all. It was a very nicely done program. Enjoyed it quite a bit, and there'll be more next year, I'm sure. Okay, with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Jeremy and Chris, and whoever wants to start first, run with it. They're going to talk about the design build project down in Nogales, where they're making a better connection from port of entry into I-19. So take it away, man.
All right, thanks, guys. Thanks for having us. This is my first time to one of the ACEC meetings. So I'm happy to be here and to present on 189. I'm going to go ahead and try to share my screen here. I use Google more than I do Zoom. So let me see if I can get this to work here. All right, can you guys see my screen okay?
Yep.
Okay, so I want to kind of give everybody kind of the lay of the land. I'm sure everybody's been down in Nogales, but you know, way down here on the bottom of the screen, we've got Nogales, Arizona, and this is the port of entry that we are working on right now. So right here, this is where Border Patrol is, Customs Border Patrol. This is where the trucks come across the border at this time. And they follow this red line. This is 189. This red line is 189. It's Mariposa. So these trucks follow this road, Mariposa, all the way up to I-19 and Mariposa. This is where the conflict is currently. What's happening is the trucks are queuing up right along in here, trying to make that left-hand turn movement to head north onto I-19. So currently there's a signal on both ends of this bridge, and we're only able to get maybe 2 or 3 trucks through there on a cycle. And we've tried to modify and adjust the signals as much as we can throughout the years. But at the end of the day, you can only buy so much time before an improvement is actually needed. And so that's where this flyover is coming into place. So this is kind of the lay of the land on where we're at, and 189 goes all the way up to Grand Avenue. So if you see on the right-hand side where the cursor is, that's Grand Avenue and 189. So it's this whole stretch that we're working on. So let me go ahead and jump into the actual presentation, and we'll go from there. All right, you guys see that okay?
Yep.
Okay. So, right, the purpose of this project was to improve vehicular access, circulation, and mobility for the vehicles on 189 to eliminate the conflicts on 189 from Mariposa Port of Entry to Grand Avenue, which is kind of what we just went through. So some general project information. This project goes from Target Range Road, where we're building our roundabout, to Grand Avenue along 189. Part of the funding for this project was $25 million in the Tiger Grant that we received. The design build teams is Ames Construction, and the design is Horrocks Engineers. Contract was awarded in the amount of $82 million. Duration was 18 months. Contract was awarded February of 2020 with a start of construction in March of 2020. The estimated completion is January of 2022. You notice it's in red because we did have a few months that slipped off the schedule, and we will adjust that later on in the presentation. Chris is going to kind of go over some of the issues and the impacts that we had on this project. Some general project improvements, right? We're Mariposa and I-19, we're building the flyover connection. I'll kind of show you guys an exhibit of that here a little bit later. That's the main point of this project is that flyover. We're building a new 2-lane roundabout intersection at Target Range Road. We've got improvements at Grand Avenue and Mariposa, raised median along Mariposa. We've got widening of Mariposa as well. We've got a lot of drainage improvements going on down there. Lighting improvements, signing and striping and signals. Sidewalk, curb and gutter, ADA improvements, additional storage capacity for all of the turning lanes in the intersections, and intersection improvements. Let me move this window here. Let's see. So looking at the map, so on the left-hand side of the screen, following the green cursor, that's where the trucks come across, and this is where we start our project improvements. It's right here. And so we've got some general roadway improvements in this section. And then this is where we hit our roundabout intersection, our 2-lane roundabout. That is brand new to the region down there. So it'd be interesting to see how that functions. And then in between the roundabout and La Quinta in here, of course, we've got some raised median, some driveways, and some new asphalt and pavement rehab in there. We've got an existing traffic signal here that we made some improvements to. And then of course, we've got sidewalk, curb gutter, and some general roadway improvements in this section along the corridor as well. Moving on further into the project. Loma Mariposa, this is a new traffic signal at this location that we're putting in. And then between Frank Reed and Loma Mariposa, we've got new widening in here. We've got additional turn lanes, traffic signal modifications. Frank Reed got a big intersection overhaul in this area. It got widened, and then right in here on this side of the intersection, that's where the touchdown and the liftoff is for the flyover. So you can see how the new flyover swings east to north here. And then you've got the southwest flyover coming back down to the border on this side. So both of these flyovers lift off and touch down right on this side of Frank Reed. This intersection, these kind of stayed the same. This is the I-19 traffic interchange. We didn't do a whole lot with this. That kind of stayed. We still got those two signals there for traffic, local traffic that goes back and forth. We've got intersection improvements here at Congress, some widening along in here, some drainage, curb gutter, sidewalk, ADA ramps along in this area. And then Grand Avenue, that one got an additional left turn lane headed northbound. This intersection does get pretty congested, and the hope is that will eliminate that. There are a lot of drainage improvements as well that go on in here. Usually when we get our summer monsoons, we'll get anywhere from a good foot and a half of water just kind of ponding in that intersection. It looks like a lake. So with all of the drainage improvements that we made down there, that will eliminate those concerns. So how did we get here? Right, we've got our typical project delivery method, right? Where we design the project, we advertise it, contractor submits the bid, lowest bidder gets selected. Right, in this case, ADOT owns the design. So on this project, we went with a design build, the design build delivery, but we actually followed the P3 law. Now, in my 18 years with ADOT, this is my first design build project. And this is my first introduction to the P3 law. So by no means am I an expert on the P3 law. I've learned a little bit about the law, through this process and through this project, but this is my first design build and P3 project. I have done a CMAR in the past. So right, P3, private-public partnership. One of the things that I found interesting and learned on this job was the fact that the project did not have to go to the state board for award, right? The director, through recommendation from the state engineer's office, can award and approve the project for construction. So how that helped us in this process, right? We had the Tiger grant, and we had to start pulling funds and drawing funds off of that grant within a certain amount of time, a certain time frame to keep that grant. And so once we were able to make negotiations work between us and the design builder, we could make the recommendation through the state engineer's office to have the director go ahead and sign the contract and get that out for construction and for design without waiting to go through the board, state transportation board. So a little bit of design build breakdown process that I learned that I found very interesting and very, actually it's very fun and good learning experience, right? So we advertise for contractors' qualifications. So all the design builders, all the teams that want to come after or pursue this project, we submit for their qualifications. They then in turn submitted all their qualifications, which we reviewed them and scored them as a panel. Then we moved into the shortlisting of the respondents at that time. And then we moved into the request for proposals. That's where we then sent out to the teams that were still in the game. We sent out to request for their proposals on how they're going to build this thing and how they're going to manage it. So during that time, one of the things that I found that was kind of really interesting and really beneficial, something I've never been a part of, is these one-on-one meetings with the shortlisted proposals. These were meetings where we actually got a chance to sit down, have face-to-face meetings with the respondents and kind of get to feel them out. They got to feel us out, kind of, what are they all about? What are they going to bring to the table? We had a lot of questions that we were able to ask them and kind of get answers to. And on the flip side, there was a lot of things, you know, in the RFP that, you know, these respondents could also ask ADOT, you know, hey, is ADOT going to allow us to close lanes on 189 during the daytime? Are we allowed to close lanes on I-19 during the daytime? What about certain types of bridge structures, types of girders, stuff like that? So we were able to kind of sit down and have those one-on-ones and have those discussions and kind of, you know, see what they're all about. So then during that time that they're still putting together their proposals, we moved into what we call the alternative technical concept, the ATC meetings. So these meetings were where they actually came to the table with some kind of like a preliminary design. You know, for example, we've got a roundabout on this project. You know, we may have gotten a technical concept where they came to the table and said, hey, we know you had a roundabout in the DCR, but hey, what about building a bridge or some kind of a girder bridge that span this area? You know, so they could actually sit down with us, show us those technical concepts. You know, one of the concepts that came out of this design build team was that they took the east to north flyover, and it used to swing way out to the east. They actually brought that flyover significantly in towards the median of I-19, which saved a lot of real estate and right of way out there. So that was one of the big technical concepts that these guys brought to the table. And we were able to sit down, review this stuff and look at it, provide comments before we move forward with anything. So then the technical proposals come in, you know, we reviewed them, scored them as panel members. The proposal price, including the time component, how much time they bid, also came in at that time. So then we moved into the adjusted scoring, right? A plus B over the technical proposal score. So the A component was nothing but their bid. How much did they bid to do this job? And then our B component was essentially, you know, we've got a group within ADOT that sits down and looks at what the user delay cost is going to be and the impact costs are going to be for ADOT in this section or section of highway that or corridor that we're building. So to say they determine, hey, it's $1,000 a day that, you know, we're going to be impacting the users by having this under construction, right? That's in the RFP. So a lot of these respondents, they know what that cost is. So say it's $1,000 a day and one contractor bids 100 days to do the job, you know, 100 days times $1,000 a day. That dollar amount then gets added to the A component, which is the cost to do the project. So that's kind of how we get the A plus the B. And then, you know, we've got the technical scores that we scored as panel members. So then we moved into final negotiations with the contractor. One of the negotiations we did after the fact on this job, which is something that the P3 law allows us to do as well, is to have a little bit more open negotiations and discussions with the contractor, was we added the broadband and the fiber to this job to try to, you know, increase internet and productivity for the community down there. So that was one of the things that we added into the contract, was that broadband connection. Then we moved into the contract award and execution, and then we started rolling into construction packages at that time. Some advantages and disadvantages of design builds that I saw, you know, with this being my first design build, was reduced design time and reduced construction time. So typically, if you take a project of this size, this magnitude, this scope, right, it usually takes anywhere from 18 months to maybe 2 years to design the project. Then you turn around and you've got another, you know, 18 months to 2 years to build the project. So you're looking at a 4-year life cycle or lifespan for this entire project. Whereas in this project, we have an 18-month period that is design and construction. So essentially, you're taking something that was 4 years down to 18 months, which includes design and construction. So that was pretty interesting to see that whole concept work. So then we see a lot of reduced change orders and a lot of reduced owner risk, right? So the design builder on this project, right, they own the design and they own the construction, you know, so it's in their best interest to go out there, do those field investigations, look at the DCR, look at all the as-built, try to find as many unknowns about the project that they can, because at the end of the day, the last thing they want to do is come back to ADOT and say, hey, we missed, you know, 300 feet of curb over here, or we forgot that catch basin, we missed it, and now we need a change order to remove a catch basin, or something like that. And so a lot of those change orders, those don't exist on these jobs, on this, especially on this job. They don't exist. It is the design builder's responsibility. They take the risk to eliminate all that. Now, not to say that there's not going to be any change orders. There were a couple on this job that were unforeseen. There was no way that the design builder would have been able to account for that. And so we'll get into that a little bit, but for the most part, you may only see, 3 or 4 change orders on these types of projects. So then we look at some of the disadvantages, right? We do see higher costs, right? These guys are not going to lowball the projects. They're not going to take advantages of errors and omissions that are in the plans. They know if they come to ADOT and ask for a change order, ADOT's going to say no because it's their responsibility. So they're going to bid this project how they see it. They're going to put their true cost in these projects. Of course, they are more complex, right? As you saw, you've got the SOQs, you got the RFP process, you got the ATCs, you've got the one-on-one meetings, you've also got your panels, you've got to score the qualification. So there is a little bit of a process versus just the project goes out after design, gets awarded to the low bidder, and then you go into construction. There's a little bit more of a process. And then there's a little bit less owner control, right? We hired these guys as a design builder to go out and do exactly that, design and build this project. We don't want to sit there every step of the way and tell them how to do this, how to do their job. We want them to go out there, design the job, come back to ADOT and show us what the best design is and for this type of project. Some of the aesthetics and artwork on this project, this has been very important to the community. Believe it or not, when Ames started doing a lot of the artwork and a lot of the painting out there, we got a lot of inquiries from city council members, from mayor, county supervisors, a lot of folks from the Port Authority down there, trucking industry, and the community. It got real vocal real quick. And so, this is kind of why I put this slide in there, is it is important to them. It's important to the community, believe it or not. And so one of the things I learned, right, Mariposa means butterfly in Spanish. This was a lot of stuff I was educated on when I gave a presentation down there to the Lions Club. There was a lot of folks that were really into the artwork. And so one of the reasons we chose the monarch butterfly, there's a lot of butterflies out there, right, is because orange wingspan. And that's why you see a lot of the stuff that's painted down there in these butterflies is like a Sierra Redwood orange color, is because it takes after the monarch butterfly. One of the things I've gotten corrected on throughout this project is the agave is a plant. It is not a cactus. We do have a lot of artwork on the MSC walls that are agaves. And so I do get corrected from time to time that it is not a cactus, it is a plant. And so we try to kind of follow our ADOT standard work on a lot of our colors. We do have our base color, which is just the ADOT tan, flat finish. And then we've got our Sierra Redwood gloss finish for the butterflies. And then again, the agave is following ADOT standard work for our colors, which is just a ADOT tan flat finish. So I'm going to move into some of the issues, impacts, challenges, and conflicts that we faced on this project. I'm going to go ahead and let Chris Kane kind of talk through those. You may see me go forward on the slides back to some of the aerial view mapping so I can kind of point to the areas that Chris is talking about. Chris, you want to take it away?
Yes, sir. Good morning, everyone. My name is Chris Kane. Jeremy, like he said, he's going to be running the presentation in the background to kind of show you some of the areas that I'm talking about. I kind of built this to be kind of a talk about some of the issues, but do a lessons learned type setup with this. So I am going to start talking about our traffic down there. So we dealt with approximately 25,000 vehicles a day through this area on the 189. It's estimated that 90% of all produce imported to the U.S. comes through the port of Mariposa, and that's just the produce. Also down there, you've got large representations of the Border Patrol, Homeland Security. We had National Guard units stationed down there during this entire project. Something else that makes this project unique is you have a lot of these side roads that you see, like the Loma Mariposa, La Quinta, Target Range Road. Normally when you have to rebuild a road like that, you can kind of shut it down and there's outlets and there's ways around that. But all these little side roads actually have these massive trucking facilities, or, you know, like the Homeland Security Operations Base back down these side roads with really no other outlet. So you had to build those, keeping those open the entire time, which was definitely a challenge. As you go move towards Grand Avenue, we had this job, by the way, broke up into 7 zones. We call the area from I-19 to Grand Zone 6. This is a heavily used area. It's where there's a lot of the stores and restaurants and stuff. So we're probably rebuilding 20 active driveways through this area. And then you get to Grand Avenue, and that is business route I-19. And that carries a lot of the civilian traffic back and forth through the city to downtown and to Mexico and back. So the traffic specifications on this job were such that you had to maintain 2 lanes of traffic each way. There were no permitted full closures, no weekend closures, and everything was really up to the RE's discretion and, you know, weighing out the community needs. The real challenge on this was building in the same footprint as the existing roadway. A lot of times when you do these jobs, you know, you can build to the side and shift traffic over. And we were really stuck in the same footprint for most of this job. And if you go back towards zones 3 and 4 near La Quinta, we actually ended up reducing the size of the roadway. So we were actually building in a smaller area than was out there. As Jeremy mentioned, we built that roundabout that had to be built in 4 phases to accommodate traffic, to keep that traffic flowing at all times. And that went from AC on each side into a PCCP roundabout. And then back to Frank Reed, what we call Zone 5. There's a real challenge here of trying to work with the space you had and accommodate the traffic control phasing. I think we had probably 6 distinct phases through Frank Reed, and that included all the signaling, everything in there. So that was quite a challenge, and it is still a challenge as it's being tied up right now. And then finally, at the end of this, the entire project takes a 2-inch overlay. And there, you know, the RFP calls for no ghost marks, no ablit. So you have to have the entire project wrap up at the same time and do your overlay, so you don't have any temporary situations that would cause any oblit marks like we talked about. So the lessons learned on traffic, I think for us, was definitely plan ahead when talking to the owner about upcoming closures. In a design build like this, the department cannot predict what you're going to need, but they do have room to operate if you can get notice and start talking to, you know, some of the emergency responders in the area ahead of time. The second lesson on that is that our designers did a good job, but it's almost impossible to predict all the spacing and traffic patterns and stuff. So we really had to be proactive and look for ways to modify the phasing, group work together, and really, it was really important down here to stay mindful of the community and the safety impacts too. And we had to remain flexible for stuff you just weren't foreseeing, like the changes on the Mariposa Wash Bridge 2 that I'm going to discuss later. The next item I'm going to discuss is utilities. So this project had a lot of utility issues, unknown lines, known lines, etc. Pretty standard stuff though for heavy civil construction. Early on, Horrocks got us off to a good start. They compiled all the utility and survey information into a GIS file, and we use this throughout the project. We did discover a lot of unknown stuff in the city, but that's a pretty common situation. The 2 big utility issues this project had were a CenturyLink fiber line that went from Loma Mariposa to I-19, and the City of Nogales water line that was added across 189 at Loma Mariposa. So the CenturyLink line was in a slope that was a future southbound roadway and needed to be removed and replaced. It also had a secondary impact of going down through the wash and going through our scour protection that we had to build under Mariposa Wash Bridge too. Although that wasn't on the critical path. So this line was broken up by CenturyLink into a prior rights and non-prior rights section. We tried to expedite this. We actually bid the demolition on both packages and were awarded the prior rights section. And that helped speed this whole process up a little bit. CenturyLink had to come in there and build a temporary setup before we could even cut that out. So it was definitely a long item, and this started all the way back during the COVID impact. So it was a slow process, but we ended up being able to kind of shift some stuff around, and ultimately we reduced that impact down to 19 calendar days. Going back to what Jeremy said though about usage, why this is important, that 19 days per this contract at $40,000 a day is worth around $760,000. So the city of Nogales water line, this came up a little bit later in the project. This issue illustrates why it's so important to get good documentation and really due diligence when it comes to prior rights and establishing prior rights up front. At the end of the day, the city came back claiming prior rights on this water line, and they wanted it basically at Loma, Mariposa, all the way across 189. So this ended up delaying the construction of the zone 5 paving and flat work in this area. And, to further complicate that, because of the speed of this thing, there was a phase change during this. So by the time it got done, it did impact the job about 30 days, and that equates to another 1.2 million. So it's definitely something you want to get ahead of. We had several other utility issues, but realistically, we were able to really partner with ADOT and a lot of the utilities down there, and most of the stuff we were pretty successful on. So I wouldn't even really call anything else out on this. For the lessons learned on this, in a design build, utilities run your schedule. You need to make sure that they are recognized and tied correctly in the CPM. And, in a design build like this, it changes the nature of your relationship to where it's not a hard bid relationship. You are also in a position of protecting the owner, in this case, ADOT. So if you don't get that stuff logged and you don't get it in the CPM correctly, you can't protect the owner when this stuff comes up and you start to reach these delays. So it's very important. And then the second thing, keep a log of all communication with all the utilities, no matter how small, and putting this critical information into the CPM again. We had a lot of personnel turnover at the various utilities and stuff. And this is just another thing. If you do not keep track of this, you cannot properly protect yourself and the owner at the end of the day. You got to give ADOT or whatever owner you're working for the tools to hold utilities and third parties accountable. Okay, the third thing I'm going to touch on is the COVID-19 and the resulting resource and labor scarcity issues. So we had done a few planning session and twig meetings when COVID really hit. So we had to find a way to adapt pretty quickly on. And so we had used some technology early on to do some of those meetings, but it really became absolutely vital to completing the design. So we had to adapt to going completely online for twig meetings and using Bluebeam for plan review and stuff like that. So, and that ended up being great for continuing on design, but I'm sure a lot of you dealt with it. items where you're trying to describe to someone where to move their cursor, and they're in another state or something, and that's not always easy. I think we found there was overall a little loss in efficiency of designing online and not in person, but I think it really opened us up to a new way of doing these projects. This project included a design office in Tucson, which basically went unused. I think the department can recognize as possibly unnecessary moving forward. And I'm also working on a second design build where nobody's in the same city and we have people in different states. And I think that would have been difficult prior to this experience, but coming through this, we have a lot of lessons learned and make those meetings effective. On the project side, the effects were probably greater. We lost crews, we lost productions. We had to keep adapting to changing protocols, which definitely isn't easy with a group like heavy civil workers, if you've ever had the pleasure of working with us. And I'm sure everyone here knows the ripple effects of COVID on workforce supply and materials. We saw lead times double and triple on items. And this time we didn't have anywhere else to go. Sometimes when you're having trouble with a sub or a vendor, you can move to the next sub or vendor on the list. But it really felt like we hit the bottom of the supply chain on this one. It was scary at times for sure, but we kept kind of teaming up with ADOT and really keeping that schedule open and looking at ways to get around things. And I think we did a good job of bending and not breaking on that stuff. So the lessons learned on COVID, I think it really tested our ability to adapt and think on the fly. Like any challenge like this, I think we are all better for having come through it. And it really forced us to develop and use new tools. I think the biggest thing I saw is our field guys were forced to kind of come in and learn some technologies that maybe they would have shied away from before. And then, once again, to protect yourself and the owner in this situation, all these COVID impacts needed to be tracked. You needed to be aggressive in getting letters of delay, reasons for delay, and really getting documentation on everything involved with COVID. All right, I'm going to talk about the Combination Bridge Foundation. So the Combination Bridge is the bridge that is located right around Frank Reed. It is where the SW and EN flyovers come together into a single bridge that we call the Combination Bridge. So this issue was huge and not in the way you want something to be huge. This one hurt my feelings a lot, actually. But the impacts of this issue required the foundations for the entire bridge to be redesigned and massively increased after the foundation report was finalized. Full disclosure on this one, Jeremy and I are still kind of talking this one over. So I'm not going to give you my opinion on this. I'm just going to tell you kind of what happened, what the situation was, and how to avoid this in the future, I think, or at least mitigate it. This project was bid on a concept that was maybe 15 to 30% plans. The existing geological data in the area was pretty old and not necessarily right in the area of that bridge. And the soils down there vary dramatically. We have areas that are solid rock that you cannot drive a lath into. And then you've got huge clay pockets that do not support bridge loading, as we found. So we started with 120-inch drilled shafts, one each at each of the 6 piers of that bridge. And those were down to a depth of around 80 foot. What we ended up with after we did the investigation was 4 72-inch drilled shafts ranging from 65 to 90 feet at each pier location. that went up to a 20 by 20 by 8 foot deep foundation. So increased reinforcing, concrete, you name it, all the way across the board. So the situation on this, the geotech reports included with the DCR and the RIDS didn't show this clay layer that we found during the technical investigation for the combination bridge. The DCR was part of the contract. However, there's language that clearly says those geotech documents are for information only. So in addition, the teams had, per the RFP, a certain amount of time prior to the bid to go out there and start your geotech investigation. I think our team found this to be a pretty long and expensive process that wouldn't have necessarily fit in that given window, but a window nevertheless was provided by the department. Exacerbating that was the fast clock on this project due to the Tiger Grant funding that Jeremy talked about before. So I think, when you look at things on both sides of the line there, I think the only conclusion you can make from that is that this is a high risk area. And the cost incurred on this was very heavy. And not only was it the cost, but now you're taking design assets to switch things up, and that design had its own clock, right? So it was a resource suck and a high cost on the project. Lessons learned from this one. I think that there's still a lot to be desired in this process for foundation design on a design build. But I think a lot of times this works out better than our project did. There's a lot more current data in Phoenix and Tucson where a lot of the projects occur, and a little bit more consistent soils that I've seen on a lot of the other projects I've done. The other part to this is I think this is wholly a design build issue. If this is a CMAR, this is caught. If this is a hard bid, this is caught. So it's kind of one of these things where this risk exists in this design build world. I think in hindsight, given the current structure of things, more contingency probably should have been allocated to this area. We had a fast clock, variable soils, old geotech reports. It just, all that together creates high risk, and it's something that probably should have been allocated more contingency, like I said. And depending on the type of contract, early recognition of a risk like this is something that can protect the owner, or your client in addition to the contractor. And lastly, I think looking backwards, getting out there and getting some of those borings done early prior to the award would have been a good thing. Our complete program cost over $1 million and took like 6 months. And right now on a design build, there's no guarantee you get any of that back. But I think somewhere in there has to be a middle ground, and you have to weigh the risk versus reward on that item. So the next and final issue I'm going to talk about is the Mariposa Wash Bridge Deck repair. So this is the bridge that Jeremy is highlighting over the Mariposa Wash Bridge. This was built in the late 60s, and then it was modified and widened out in about 94, I believe. On our project, we ended up drilling caissons and widening both the north and the south halves of the structure. And when we started the demolition of the edges of the 94 section, we could start to see some pretty serious issues in the deck itself. First and foremost was the numerous boot prints that were left in the deck. So as we started demoing it, we could see there was widespread consolidation issues in that concrete. A lot of it was just turned to powder when you would hit it. So we partnered with ADOT, and they brought out Bridge Group. We did some soundings, and the determination was that the entire 94 widening section needed to be removed and replaced out to our new bridge section. So our designers came up with a repair plan that required shoring down in the wash. And this was its own challenge, right? Because we saw, when everything starts running down there, we saw surges of 8 to 10 foot of water under that bridge in just a couple hours. So we needed to channelize that flow and protect the shoring that was in place. So that is having to be done in phases currently. So, and the other issue with this is because that the space on that bridge deck we're locked out of until we can get that repair done. It ended up affecting the critical path of that work, and that's what Jeremy was referring to earlier as the date for the end of the contract got pushed out, and that's a direct impact from this issue. So lessons learned on this. I'm sure you all know this, but expect issues anytime you're building onto existing structures or pavement. It's a much different animal than building new. Every job I've done like this, it rarely goes off like it does on paper. And as a side note on this one, I would say, make sure you and the owner are protected anytime you're building in a wash like this. The swells we talked about, they came very quickly. So knowing where you're working, we found that the FEMA floodplain information down there was very helpful to determine the risk and really what you're dealing with down there. Almost that entire project is in a FEMA floodplain. So thank you for listening to me. That's my entire section. I'm gonna pass it back to Jeremy. Thank you again.
All right, we got one last slide. I want to respect everyone's time so we can get through this one here pretty quick. Thank you, Chris, for the update on those impacts and issues. So some quick facts about the 189 project, right? Our return on our investment, an average of 2,000 trucks per day cross through the Mariposa Port of Entry. The completion of State Route 189 is expected to save 10 minutes per northbound truck and also reduce emissions. Over 350,000 trucks crossed the Mariposa Port of Entry in 2019 with over $30 billion of goods. All commercial trucks entering the U.S. from Mexico now enter through the Mariposa Port of Entry. The Mariposa Port of Entry accounts for more than 90% of the produce imported to the United States. Mexico is Arizona's largest trading partner, bringing almost 40% of Arizona's global trade. The biggest exports that come through the Mariposa POE are computers and electronic products. And the biggest imports, obviously, is the produce. Over $195 million in salaries are supported by trade that cross the border at the POE annually. And sales tax, right? You know, during the COVID, it decreased, but due to COVID and the construction crews, the materials that were purchased down there, right, increased some of the sales tax in Nogales during this time. So, you know, I know the community was very thankful for that. Same as like the hotels, the last bullet point. You know, we had a lot of folks down there eating down there at the restaurants, a lot of folks using the hotels, all the materials that they bought. It really, really helped out the community. And I know we've had a lot of discussions with them. It's gone through the mayor and council down there, you know, where a lot of these businesses and these mom and pop shop owners, they were very thankful for this project and the fact that it happened when it happened, right? I mean, nobody wanted COVID to happen, but the fact that it was there at this time, it really helped these communities out. And I think they were very, very thankful for it. And we have received really no negative feedback from anybody down there. Everybody's been very, very happy, very excited, willing to partner with ADOT, partner with the contractor to see that we get this project completed on time. And so it's the community has been very, very, very helpful and very understanding. So really with that, that's all we've got. We do have our community relations page. There's a project website that you can check out and get updates. We've got a contact in English and Spanish for people that need to call in and put some comments out. So yeah, we've got a webpage, check it out. And with that, that's all we've got.
All right. Thanks, Jeremy. Thanks, Chris. Any questions for either of them? Well, I have a question. Chris talked a little bit about, used the word co-locating office, but based on your experience, do you see that co-located offices might be, for lack of a better word, obsolete or still beneficial, and that would go to both of you?
I mean, for me, I kind of would still like to see that co-located office. I mean, we made it work and it worked very well. But I still think that there's some benefit to sit down and have that one-on-one, that FaceTime. I think there's a lot of benefit to that, because I mean, there were some struggles going back and forth with plan sheet. Like Chris says, it's hard to tell somebody to move the cursor here and flip to that plan sheet. I think it's good just to sit down and have that dialogue at face value and get the plan sheets out on the table so you can express your thoughts and issues one-on-one. I think it's still needed. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think I would echo Jeremy's sentiment on this. I would just say that I think, so this project was run out of Tucson by Jeremy and his people. So they wanted a design office there because of how far Nogales was. So I think when it comes to spending extra money because having that co-located office is logistically difficult, I think that what we've found is that there's workarounds for that now, and that you can avoid some of those heavy costs and you can still make this happen.
I think to add a little more, I think there may even be more of like a hybrid option. When you've got little things going on, and the plan sheets that you're reviewing are more like landscape stuff, I think you can use Bluebeam. I think you can do that. But when you're looking at like detours and you're looking at crossovers and phasing, I think those are the meetings that you need to sit down face to face and have a big conference room to sit down and be able to talk. But I think there's probably a middle ground somewhere that would really be successful.
Okay, thanks. Steve, I see your hand raised.
So Steve, I got two takeaways. Chris Kane, I rarely hear protecting owner with CPM. So my compliments to you and, Ames. That is something rare. I do encourage consultants and contractors to think about that and protect yourself. So that was one of my takeaways, Steve. The other takeaway that Jeremy brought up was 30 billion crosses the border. Imagine if we could just capture 3% of that and put it into transportation. 30 billion, 3%. That's all I got, Steve.
Yeah. Good observation. Anybody else?
Just a general comment. It's Lemke. Steve Jimenez, thank you for setting this up. Jeremy and Kane, I enjoy hearing stuff like this because I'm a design build guy. I like to hear the lessons learned and all of that. It's very interesting, and I like to hear stuff like that. So good presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? I want to go to Anthony if he was able to call in. Ammon, do you know if Anthony was able to call in?
Yeah,
he gave me some his two updates that I can run when you're ready.
Go ahead.
So first, on a personal note, I really enjoyed the presentation, Jeremy and Chris. Thank you. It was I got to get down there a month or two ago. It was amazing to see the transformation. COVID's cool because I don't see anything for a year and a half, and come out and everything's changed in Tucson and in Nogales. So lots of work going on. So for Anthony, he wanted to apologize. He had a meeting with Brent Kane at 9 o'clock, so he felt like he had to jump off. But his two announcements or updates were that our federal highway extension goes for the highway bill goes through December 3rd. And then I guess we'll be looking at Congress to make another, extend the CR or maybe pass the big bill, hopefully. But until then, we're good until December 3rd. And then he also said that Federal Highway is working with DBIA, AGC, and ACEC on a progressive design build webinar. And it looks like that's tentatively scheduled for November 23rd. So that's all the information I have.
All right. Thank you very much. Justin, any closing comments?
Sure. Emma, thank you so much for sharing that information. Yes, ACEC, the AGC, and DBIA are coming together to host a webinar with regard to progressive design build. And we're really excited to have you guys come. If you saw your newsletter yesterday, there is a link there. We will be sending out a separate flyer for you to go ahead and register for that. It is complimentary. And we will be doing a hybrid event. So we will be hosting in person at ACEC Arizona and then also virtually. So we're really looking forward to that. The other thing I just wanted to remind you is that our LEAP applications are now available on our website. So if you have a potential leader in your group or a leader amongst you that you would like to have join us in the LEAP program, we would certainly love to have them. If you have any questions or anything like that about LEAP, please feel free to reach out to Amerigo or myself. And yeah, I think that's it for me, Steve. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Our next meeting is scheduled for December 1st, and hope to see you all there. So I think we're done. Thanks again to Jeremy and Chris and those who have offered other announcements. See you in December. Have a happy Thanksgiving. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye all.
The kitties are bad and big.
Oh, they're enormous.
They are
Kitties.
so big.
Reminds me of the zoo.
It's a little like the zoo.
Well, when I was here last time, the tabby climbed in the purse.
I hear you.
Oh, he's still there.
Kitty, come right and see me. Come on, hi. How are you, kitty?
See you, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, I'm waiting.
You want to kitty? There's one. Harry. How are you? You want him back in my purse?
All right. Come on. Get up here. All right.
That's funny.
Oh, yeah. Hey, look.